Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? Thank you. I think Mr. Tapan made us a little bit hungry from the last session, so few people are still enjoying the meals. Thank you for that, sir. Well, my name is Kulpreet, and I come from a company called Capgemini. It's a privilege to be here in this forum full of quality leaders. I'm going to talk about a topic which is close to my heart for around 15 minutes. If you get bored, you can raise your hand and I can make it 10 minutes. But before I jump into the topic, a bit of context about the company. We are working at the heart of digital and technology-led transformations. However, we present ourselves always as a human-centered organization, and that's where the topic comes from. Okay, a lot of people. We have around 360. Now we have crossed 370,000 people across globe. Around 2 lakh people in India. My role from Capgemini perspective, I lead global portfolios across 50 countries, and we do a lot of transformation programs internally as well as with clients. Yeah. The focus from our CEO, again, it's always, you'll see whenever you talk about Capgemini, it's human, human, human. Clients are human, people who are working in the companies are human, and that's the thread which we always talk about whenever we are talking internally or externally with the clients. Yes? 22 billion euros, 360,000 people, 50 countries. But we always say, people matter, results count, right? So let me quickly go to myself. Started as an engineer after my graduation in production engineering with Larsen & Toubro, a mechanical production type of an engineer. Started with electrical products, design, and quality engineer. I started my journey and of course have changed various roles during my career. I've worked with a lot of companies across the globe as a global consultant, have been in different capacities in different places, have seen and touched different type of industry cultures, and that has been the privilege. Because when you go to a different company, you realize that what's make them different, right? And maybe you can also sense when you are working with different companies. All right. Well, of course, MBA. After I did my engineering, did my MBA, did my diploma in advertising and public relations for some reason. Then, of course, pursued a lot of certifications in Six Sigma, Lean, CMMI, all traditional ones, right? Close to my heart, I'm a part of a panel of lead assessors for Confederation of Indian Industries. I have a colleague here also. So what we do is we do business excellence assessment for the CII every year. A panel of around 7 people, 8 people, and we go into one of the company and look at and do an end-to-end assessment. So I assess business excellence models as well as customer obsession models for CII. Of course, closely working with ISO as well as Bureau of Indian Standards for some of their publications, especially around service management. Then I think on personal side, love my kids, love spending time with my kids. Photographer, and if I get some chance, of course, take my 500cc and hit the road. So you still feel some youth, but yeah, the gray hair shows the different story. So that's a different thing. Let's start. And what I'm going to talk about here is more of a perspective. You can have different perspective or different way of defining the same subject as I do. But just bear with me for my story, all right? Quality management, what is it? So my perspective of quality management in traditional sense is, it's about 3 domains. Compliance. Now compliance, not just to the standards and processes, it's also to the product specifications, service specifications. But all we are trying to make sure is that the thing which we visualized, we want to be aligned, right? All good, all right, okay? Compliance. But okay, we have met the specifications. Where are we going? Benchmarks. Look at other industries, look at the measurements, look at the processes. buy yourself a maturity model, capability assessment, maturity assessment, upgrades, all good, right? So it's not only about being there, it's also about moving ahead, right? Going further, satisfaction, client satisfaction, and learning from the market and going back, right? Now, these are the three typical or critical domains of quality management in my view, right? And if you think from, just think from a perspective, we are basically, what we are doing is, we are parameterizing the human behavior. Who wants what, how we work, and how closely we are working with what is needed, and things like that, okay? Now, this has been there, traditional quality management, some things have changed. And all of you are a part of this journey. So I don't think that these things should shock you, right? But before we jump there, let's quickly see compliance. Now, sometimes people run away from compliance saying, it's a compliance part. Compliance is there for all good reasons, yes. We have an alignment. Alignment with what? Our objectives, our standards, our requirements, our common directions. That's what makes us one. Perfectly reasonable, right? Cohesion, one brand image. Consistency. People should expect that consistency, right? And that's where I think, and then internally, we look at integrations, right? There are 50 pieces, not connecting together, the company is gone. Right? Making sense till now? All right, still awake, great. Few trends which are changing this. The first part, digital, IT, OT, not just the enablers now anymore, right? They are the ways by which people work, by which businesses transform. They are the identity of the business in the modern world. Mass personalization, make it more people-centric. Embrace the diversity. You're going more individual, right? Another concept which is very well hitting all the organizations, depending upon which industry you come from, a little bit less, a little bit more. And somewhere it is your choice also. You want to be thinking about mass personalization or not. Servitized. How many of us here have heard servitization? Can I just see a show of hands? All right, so let me just go into it a little bit. Two types of business models, goods-based model, service-based model. You deliver the goods or you deliver services. Hospitality, airline, medicals and financials, services. Goods-based business, you develop the product, give it to people, they use it, great. Slowly, companies are moving from that goods-based business to a service-based business, and that's called servitization. Recent story, Rolls-Royce, they moved around 4 years, 5 years back. They made a claim that they're moving away from their basic business of developing and selling jet engines into selling thirst as a service. Well, they're not stopping to produce jet engines. They're changing that entire business model. And as quality people, somewhere, if we don't connect with the business model, then it's all papers. The books on the shelf, the standards on the shelf, it's not real, right? So these things are making a difference right now. Sustainability, environment, social, governance, entire ESG formula coming in, different companies taking it in a different way. Some people under the pressure of regulations, some people in the right gist, lot of things changing, right? And these are not the only industry markers. But what happened in terms of users, customers? Let's look at some of the markers here, all right? How many of us have experienced that you downloaded an app and you deleted that app in 1 minute or 2 minutes? As users, thank you, as customers, we are digitally intolerant. Not to be changed, it's going to increase. People are not going to accept companies' behavior if it's not aligned with what they expect, right? Another one, how many of us use the power of network to buy services, to buy goods. I think it's a redundant question. I think everybody, right? It's not only the network of people whom we know. We go, and if you go to Amazon, people look at or browse through the user pictures more than the published pictures. Same with travel sites, same with all type of sites, right? So the power of network is growing, which means I can't just focus on an advertisement to make my image. People on the ground are going to do it, right? You go to a company talks to you. You will feel difference between when you interact with different companies. The power of empathy comes into picture. How many people relate here with the word empathy? Thank you so much. Have you ever watched a series by Mark Ruffalo, The Powerful Hulk, on YouTube? Sesame Street, watch his definition of empathy. 2 minutes. And if you have not seen it earlier. Clear all doubts, right? But this is what is making a difference. If company is not talking to you at your personal level, at your feelings level, if it is irritating you, or are you feeling happy, the product and services, they don't matter too much in coming area. Instant gratification, I need it now. I can't wait for 12 months for a car. Many of us in the room might feel this pain right now. We can't wait for pizza to arrive more than 30 minutes. And it just starts. Once one company starts it, everybody has to follow, because that's the real user need. You can't go away with this. Equation of power. A lot of companies have customer loyalty programs. These customers are loyal to me. Why? Companies have to be loyal to the customers. The equation of this power is changing with more and more equations there, right? So now, there are a lot of other user markers, and if you look at minutely, you'll see a lot of this. I don't have to tell you, right? What's happening? The expectations from the business is changing, and that's something which is creating a scenario called a watermelon scenario. Watermelon is green from outside and red from inside. All our reports, all green. If users are still feeling the same green, then that's great, but that's not the case in most of the industry. And that's why actually customers and users are finding a chance to step away from the company they love. Right? Let's look at the numbers. PwC. 1 in 3 people will leave the company they love just by one bad experience. And 90+% will leave in 2 or 3 faulty interactions. Right? And it's not only the negative part, what I'm talking, there's a positive part. The data done by PwC, 86% of buyers are ready to pay you the premium price for the experience you give them. Experience is becoming more and more. Right? And of course, it's a CEO agenda, CXO agenda, that's okay. But what does it mean? We have always been doing customer satisfaction. It's a small part of the operation. It's intrinsic. I check for the satisfaction of the customers based on my policies, my processes. Are you satisfied with what I did? Yeah, I'm satisfied, but I didn't feel good. I feel irritated, right? A lot of other factors, outcome, communication, feedback, empathy, support. Many of these things come into the picture when we start thinking about experience and not only concerned about satisfaction. Fair till now? Thank you. So, we call it as a journey from satisfaction to experience. It's fluid. It's very human. It's not our traditional 5-year, 4-year, 4-month, 1-month type of plan. It's agile. It's volatile. It's uncertain. And that's why it's becoming more and more a challenging field as we go. But experience is reality. So let's see, how do we take a view of this from a quality management perspective? Well, of course, we parameterize this as well. But this parameterization is going to be very different for your customers and not only the customer as whole, but depending upon the personas of the customer. Tapan Saab gave a great vision about the diversity which you are bringing in, and you want to please a lot of customers. But those are people, and set of people have different personas. So, how do you actually impress upon the required persona? You can't win this game for all the personas, for sure. But you can start with some, and then you have a vision to go towards that. Great. But personas are becoming more and more important. So you parameterize. Parameterize what? Convenience. Think about these factors, right? These are the experience parameters, and none of these parameters are going to be same for one company to other company. We have been doing some engagement models with different global companies. Parameters change. The way they are calculated change. User personas change. Psychology is becoming more and more critical in the way we run this game, right? Happiness, value as an outcome. Did that help people achieve the value which they wanted? Second, did we make them valuable, feel valuable? Both are the concept of value. Personalized, helpful employees, friendly service, time for provision, reliability, carry on. So what do? Right? How do we now mesh it up? Well, of course, what we do is we try to strike a balance. And balance, I mean, we still look at the product and service, the process quality, the product quality. That's not going to go away. From a Kano model perspective, now that has become more like basics. It's not going to excite people. It's not going to really impress upon and have a good experience. Well, you balance it with value and experiences. So you have to understand what value and experience mean to your customer base, to different personas of the customers whom you handle. But there's still something missing in this picture in the modern world. In the modern world, we call it as VUCA. How many people here have seen this picture earlier? There's a model called Scanavin. Oh, okay, great. So, most of our businesses are operating in the clear domain. We sense, we categorize the work, we respond. Processes, procedures, setup. The second one is complicated, which is the standard process and procedures don't work unless you understand which one to apply. So you have modularity in it. Now, complex. These two domains have been our area of work for ages, across companies, across industries. It's shifted there on the complex side. Complex is, it's so complex, you can't imagine what you're going to form. So what do? You probe, then you sense and respond. And then coming to the chaotic world, where you can't even have probe, battlefield. You can't say, I'm sending a man out in the battlefield just to check. No, you act. It's not a probe. Now, if you look at the entire operating models, we have to see which part of our organization can handle clear and complicated, and which part need to handle complex and chaotic. But in this picture, where it is going is, the people, the employees are becoming more and more important. And we call it as the fabric of your organization. And there are different pieces to it. Value system, all companies have it, few live by it. But that's going to become so critical because this is something which create one part of your employee experience. Your mindset, are your people adaptive to change? It's not about being a company adaptive or the leadership adaptive or processes adaptive. If your people can't handle that adaptiveness, it won't work. Accepting failures. Most of the dashboards in the companies are green. You know why? Because they know that we can't handle the failures. They want to make it green and hide the other things which are not green. Accepting, is there a culture there? Because unless we do that, you see in the picture which I earlier showed, the chaotic world, well, you have to act. there is a possibility of failure, right? And then you go to the culture from trust, empowerment. Every single word on this slide is critical, right? And this creates that employee experience. So you can't think about your user or customer experience unless you connect it with the employee experience. So for the customer, that person wants to feel valuable, and employees want to feel valued. Different definition of value, and going back to Mr. Karma in the first session where he said, quality is about value. Value. Value for whom? People. What type of people? Now that's where you connect the dots, right? So how do we bring it into this equation? That's where it sits. It ties everything together. And that's where I think our quality organizations now are trying to feel not only the left and the right side itself is new, but that middle, the mind with a heart and a yellow piece there, that's becoming more and more critical. And we have to connect these dots, right? So from a model perspective, and that's my last slide, how do you design a model? We all have value streams. Value streams are typically the service or product oriented, great. There's a little different value stream from customer touchpoint perspective. You have functions, they actually play a role in different touchpoints, and it is touchpoint based value streams, which means it's a model revamp once you start moving in that direction. And from a framework perspective, I'll just leave you with few blocks. If you are thinking on going in this direction, the first layer, define experience. Right-hand side, define the value of that experience. Not every experience would be business worth. You'll have to, at the end of it, we have to make money, long time, right? And then collaboration, the environment of collaboration between the users, between the teams. Company has to co-create value. We cannot deliver value. The second part, traditional one, strategy, roadmap, governance, all type of mechanisms. You'll still need everything. And the ground one, mindset, skill set, tool set. Cut across everything. And that's where you bring it all together in your experience management type of a framework, make it a part of your quality program, and we have to this is the way possibly to influence the experiences what we are talking about. I've taken inspiration from a guy called Marco. He's a CEO of Gillette, a company called Gillette. In IT services, we have a good word called SLA. How many of us has heard about SLA, please? Service level agreements, right? Secret, lies, and assumptions. His definition. It's not mine, I'm just copying him. Right? Watermelon, green, red, keep that in mind. And that's where he coined a word from SLA to XLA, experience level agreement. Right? So industry is changing. Texas Police, 4 weeks back, they actually launched a complete experience management program, police force. It's not only industry, right? Experience is becoming the king of the next generation. So leave you with these thoughts. Experience is the new battlefield, managing experience by the system. And people are a part of that system. It's not only process, the machines and the AIs of the world, right? Human-centered focused design, and I was too quick to press the button. Look at system from the complexity perspective. Change your definition of key KPI from key performance indicators to key proudness indicator. Let's create better experiences. That's all for me today.
I have one question, so I just need your, permission for that, for asking it
Come
up.
on,
So, like you said, very important aspect is that, experience is something which is very, very important. We fully agree with that, okay? You also spoke about the, how to make sure that we assess the maturity of an organization. Very important. Which tool, what sort of digestion the people are having. If people are not owning up the processes, then you put it up the processes or systems in place, it is not going to happen because they are the one who drive it, right? Now, you have also talked about the customer experience, okay? If I look at that, now, generally, in the world-class companies, 2 metrics are being looked at. right? Now, two metrics are being looked at. When you say KPI or KRA or OKR or whatever, based
Yep.
on the company's one, right?
That's right.
Now, one is CSAT, all right? That's customer satisfaction. And the another one is, the NPS, which you call as Net Promoter Score, right? Now, we ultimately need to make sure that we satisfy all 8 stakeholders and interested parties, right? Including from the shareholders to investors to financial institutions, internal,
Absolutely.
external,
Business value.
stuff like that. So, based on the maturity of an organization, what do you think is the right metric to put in place initially, to stabilize that, and then, make sure that you progress it well? So what do you think is the right metric to put in place, with respect to the maturity of an organization, whether it's CSAT to, understand the experience of a customer, or whether it should be NPS? So that's,
Okay.
that's a,
All right.
that's a thing from my side.
So I've been a consultant long time, and my favorite answer is it depends. Right? So let me start with that. You can have various approaches which can answer your situation. Let's take NPS. What's the benefit of that approach? You take Net Promoter Score. They're very standardized definition. Everybody knows what it is. Your promoters, your detractors, your this, your that. Finally, a formula, a funky number coming in, and we say, hey, we are not doing good. How do you move forward?
The customer perceptions has to be understood, right? And, that's the next way of, getting into it, more, getting the deeper insights of, what exactly is going wrong, at which stage, so that we can act accordingly in a focused manner.
You might
right?
be already on the way to your experience journey. But keep in mind, there is a difference between satisfaction measurement and the experience measurement, right? Experiences, most of the time, will not come through a survey or a form.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, they will come through the indirect data, power of social media, power of touch points. You might have indirect measurements, and that's where I'm saying no one framework will fit your things, right? CSAT, NPS, they are existing powerful equipments. Use it to the place where you can. Expand it. But at the end of it, my last slide, which was there about your customer touch point journey. If your NPS and CSAT are still answering the value stream, which are more product and service centric, you're still missing the bus on your customer touch point. So maybe think about NPS and CSAT on those touch points and start connecting the dots, saying this person was not happy, he was irritated, this persona is not happy, and then which functions need to do this job. So it's not the end result, it's the journey. So you may have the ingredients right now itself, It's not a revamp, but revamp is from a model perspective of a value stream, the way you manage it.
All right.
Make sense?
All
To a
right.
certain level?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to take it further, it's chaotic, so. Either ways, we can talk, okay? But keep in mind, if it has been a frustrating journey for us when we started on it 2 years back, because we were actually looking at our rudimentary cookie cutter standard solutions. What we realized, it's more and more about people and people experiences. And then we said this experience also keep changing month to month. And that's where we started differentiating, saying, okay, we have to understand this animal called experience. Maybe reuse whatever we have, right? Why not? But perspective become different, right? Any other question? Already
Okay.
bored? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, audience. Give a little momentum.